947.
So I just want to start off by saying that there were moments in the movie that I had where I was just making so many comments, particularly about the cast. I'll start off by saying I had comments about Sam, who's of course played by Rotimi, and I just felt like, oh my gosh, he's such an artist. He's not combing his hair. He's talking so slow. He's so poetic. And I just felt like, oh, wow, okay. He carries the character so well. But then we came across Jackie, who's played by Vanessa. And I just felt like she's so wild, but we need a Vanessa in our lives from time to time, right? Which brings me to the question, Milan, when it comes to putting such a cast together, when you know how important the story is for you and to have a cast relay the story so well, what actually goes into choosing and deciding and putting such a cast together?
You want to marry the combination of individuals who are very talented. Without question, I was incredibly blessed to be able to have someone like Rotimi, who, in my opinion, is the new generation's Denzel Washington. He's extremely smart and he grasps things very, very quickly. On top of that, he was a joy to be on set. I mean, he just lifts up everyone, as does Vanessa Williams. Those individuals I know that can play, those two people immediately came to mind. So it was a joy.
Like I said, you know, when watching you play the character of Sam, I was just like, I really just, you know, connected with the character. I felt like I'd met a Sam in my life before because I could immediately identify that he's an artist just because he himself so well. And I guess, you know, wardrobe was also assisting you with, you know, completing the look as well. But what kind of preparation methods did you use to actually, you know, relay Sam so well?
Well, I went to school with a lot of Sams, you know, a lot of guys who were really just aloof, just really in touch with their spiritual side, which I am also myself. So that part of it was cool. And then his heart, you know, like we have the same heart in a way. So it was easy to kind of just convey that. But in terms of his swag and how he walked, I know like seven Sams. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna walk like this. I'm gonna wear my hat like how he did. So it was kind of just, you know, life is like the ultimate teacher, you know. So like, it's really not any type of pretend. It's more of just observing. So I was able to just see a lot of throughout my life, and I just picked and used my heart for someone I really like, you know, like kind of like childlike at a time for me too, where it was how did I feel when I was 18, 19? So I kind of pulled back from that and used that to bring him all together.
You know, we're actors, we're observing people in their natural habitat, right? So the spirit of the production was very, very collaborative, right? And our director, Bryan, had like a very clear, very, very, very specific person in mind, a real person who gives relationship advice. And so that is what, so she spoke with a Southern accent, and she had very specific mannerisms and such. And so that's what I did in terms of like her outside, you know, her sort of mannerisms and the way she spoke. And then of course, you know, like as Rotimi said, you know, you're using parts of you and your own how you are like your character and how you're different, you know, to build this character. And as I said, because it was collaborative, such a collaborative experience, I was also able to like offer some language and some thought process about, I was like, well, you know, some of my own sort of values about dating and advice I've given to my girlfriends around, you know, being pleased and, you know, allowing oneself to, you know, find a good man who really devours you and adores you, much like my favorite song right now, Hours and Hours and Hours, right? So she becomes what, you know, they order food, but she's what gets devoured. And so like those kinds of sentiments really resonated with me, you know, as a single woman, and advice that I like to follow and give my girlfriend.
Yeah, so Vanessa made mention about, you know, collaborative effort and how, you know, just having some of her cast members somewhat enhance her playing the role. And, you know, sometimes we forget the importance of such collaborative efforts when it comes to producing and creating films like that. For you, why did you feel it was important? And was it like a seamless task? Because sometimes you come across, you know, cast members that sometimes just don't gel, like you'd love for them to gel. But here, I mean, you even showed us some of the bloopers and the off-camera moments that actually showed that there was so much synergy amongst the cast. Why was that important for this movie? And how did you receive actually realizing that, you know, they actually get along even off camera?
I wanted to talk about Vanessa and how you highlighted her. Vanessa has an extremely high EQ. So I think it was really easy for her to play that character because she's also highly empathetic. Personally, in the way that she interacts with people, I saw how she interacted with her castmates. It was, I think, easier for her to play a sympathetic character because innately that's just who she is.
I love that. I'll bring this back to Rotimi. Rotimi, you know, for a very long time, we experienced you on Power, and your character on Power was, you know, this rough, tough guy. And now we're experiencing you in a kind of light, you know, and you're more sensitive, you're more in touch with your spirituality. What was it like to play, you know, different roles, or what was it like to actually play this role that somewhat separates you from how we as a worldwide audience came to understand you?
You know, as a creative, you want to just show your range, you know, and so when Milan, you know, contacted me and my team about it, it was a no-brainer because it was like, oh wow, like let's actually be somebody that people want to win. Like let's actually be somebody that people like, you know, and so we were able to do that, and it just shows the range of what I can do. You know, everything has to be chess, you know, so like I knew, okay, I was signing on to be working with someone who knows what they're doing, super, super talented, highly underrated for how gifted they are. And that kind of resonated with me. And then the script itself was phenomenal. And then it was funny and it was light, and you get to film in Africa. So like, it was so many things that was like, all right, this is a no-brainer, bro. Please, please, please make this happen. And it was one of the best decisions I've done because, again, it's changed the conversation of what I do. And it's even opened up my mind as an artist, like, oh, I can do this like this. That's seamless. All right, let's get into comedy. Let's get into this. Let's get into that. So it kind of just started the domino effect for me, you know, career-wise as well. So it was dope.
So I wanted to interject. I also wanted to interject that you were asking earlier, sis, about like what Milan is talking about. And I'm so grateful to these wonderful words that he says about me. And he's been saying this from the day we met. And what he just said about how he saw Rotimi's wonderful talent, and he filed that away to use later. He knew he was going to need an actor like this with these kinds of sensibilities, and he filed us in his little brain file to use us later and work with us later in all his projects. And he's a man of his word. He does what he says, and that's a rare find in the Hollywood industry, to have somebody really follow through with what they say they're going to do, and be really, really communicative every step of the way. This was a joy. This producer, Milan Selassie, was an amazing person to work with, and how he brought together all these people. And that's the skill you were asking him. Sometimes it's hard for a person to see their own talent, you know. So I'm letting you know that is the mark of a wonderful, amazing producer.
One thing that came to your mind when you watched the movie for the first time after concluding the entire production, what was it?
No, I loved it. I think it was just like, wow, it really came. Because again, as an actor, you don't know what other people are doing. You know the script, but you don't know how the director shot this, what choices other actors made, how the editing. So you just do your job and hope for the best, really. You know, and so when you see it, you're like, I was just literally, and I watched it, and with my fiance, and it was like, oh wow, this is tough. This is great. This came together really well. Everybody executed, and even through some adversities that we were having, you know, it all came together, you know, and so it was really, really dope, man. And I'm happy. I'm really, really happy to be a part of it.
Well, as I was shooting it, I knew that we had something really special. There were those wonderful special moments that you talked about that were shown in the outtakes. And so it was full of, you know, that when we were shooting it. And so for me, it was just wonderful to see the genius of the producer's cut of all those wonderful things come together, you know, between the musical choices, between, you know, this is a wonderful film. And our producer, Milan, was so hands-on about every single choice that makes it magical. You know what I mean? I mean, like I said, really, really collaborative. And so once I saw the final cut that Milan, you know, approved and put together, I was just like over the moon, and I couldn't wait for everybody to see it. And my only sort of disappointment is that we moved into this pandemic time, and not enough people were going to see it on the big screen, because it was made for the big screen. So I say, see it on the biggest screen you have. People have movie screens in their house or really huge TVs. So I say, see it on the biggest screen you have in your house. But I knew from the feeling from when I was working on it that we had a gem.
You know, towards the end, the decision to choose yourself as a woman is relayed in the story. Even though, you know, all throughout the movie, she was looking for love, or she was single and she just felt like, no, she's not ready. And then she stumbles on love. And now when she finds love that's so true, that's so enjoyable, she then decides that, no, if this love requires me to step away from what I want for myself, then I'm going to have to say no to it, and I want to choose me, you know? Why did you feel that message was so important for the film? And what do you feel are some of the things as women we tend to miss with regards to choosing ourselves?
Bolele, that's a brilliant question. I'm really glad that you asked that. I think that for women, you don't see these types of movies where a woman is choosing herself. Specifically about women of color. I think women of color have often given so much of themselves for their families, for relationships. Consistently, there's often a giving and a giving and a giving until sometimes there's not much to give left. And given that this is a film with a predominantly Black cast, I loved it. There's a story with this central character being a person of color who's choosing herself. And I think that that is the type of message that women in South Africa, women throughout the international diaspora that are of color can watch and relate. It's not to say that men or women should be selfish, but I think people need to themselves first before they can take care of other people. And you realize the importance of that, Bolele, when you even get on an airplane. You're on the airplane and the flight attendant says, before you help other people with their first put the mask on yourself so that you can breathe. Creating a space for women to breathe before they can help other people breathe, I think is a message that's really important. So I gravitate because I think it's very realistic. And I think it's a message that women need to hear, especially women of color in South Africa and abroad.
I absolutely love that, because it really is true. A lot of the time, especially women of color tend to neglect themselves because, you know, in one way or another, we're really just raised to be the homemakers. We're raised to be the ones to take care of the families, to make sure that everyone is okay apart from ourselves. So much so that, you know, we somewhat drown, and it's just like, it's too much, you know?